Secret to a long marriage, humor, sense of humor. Works all the time. I do. I told her to smile when I said that. Next up, Pamela Jean Lyman. Pamela Lyman was born and raised in Canada. I gotta talk to you about your border crossing agents over in Toronto one day. In a smallish town in the heart of the Okanagan Valley. There she learned to appreciate the beauty of the world around her. She didn't start reading for pleasure until her teens, but when she discovered how easy it was to escape the world around her by burying her nose in a book, she was hooked. She can still be found holed up in her upstairs bedroom, avoiding the inevitable yet ever-present task of laundry, dishes, cooking, and cleaning that comes with raising 4 boys. Wow, boys. When there's 3 of us brothers in my family, so. When not reading or doing all the motherly things that busy moms do, Pam can be found mountain biking, running, painting a different wall in her house, decorating, scouring Goodwill for treasures, hanging with her family and friends, and trying desperately to find the humor in the life around her. She currently lives in Hillsboro with her husband Matt and their 4 boys, Ben, Conrad, George, and Wilson. Come on up, Pamela.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Speaker. What's that? Right. There you go.
There you go.
Not too tall. Not too tall. Not too tall. The speaker or the mic is too low. Right there. Okay.
How's that?
I think it's okay.
Come on. I work in high tech, I can do this. There you go.
All right. Okay, well thank you for first of all inviting me to this amazing event. I'm a first-time author, and I've really been uplifted by the past 2 authors who've talked, and I feel like I'm going to bring it down a little bit because I wrote a book about my son who has a very rare genetic disorder called Angelman syndrome, and so I don't want to bring it down too much because I feel good. So anyway, June 26, 2003, my son, our son, Conrad, was born. I mean, he was diagnosed with Angelman syndrome. And it was kind of a long kind of process for him to get diagnosed. When he was born, I kind of just had this feeling that something was different about him, and I wasn't quite sure. And I talked about it with my husband. He's like, no, and because we already had our older son, Ben. And Ben was this little boy who was just quick to do everything. He walked early, he talked early, he crawled early, sat up early, did everything early. And Matt was just convinced that Conrad was just laid back, because my husband's very laid back. And I just thought, no, there's just something. And those of us who are parents or who've been around kids just, that have that intuition, we just kind of are like, I don't know, something's not right. And so I noodled on it for quite a while, and then when he was 1, I took him to his pediatrician, and with our older son for his well baby checkup, and the doctor said, we'll come back in a couple weeks when it's time for Conrad's checkup, and bring a lot of questions because I'll answer them then. So I went back 2 weeks later, and I just had Conrad with me, and he, I wanted to read actually what he said. If I can find it. Maybe not. Sorry, this is kind of a well-worn book. Let's see. Oh, okay. No, that's not it either. I'm sorry. I haven't done this before. Okay. I did as he asked, and the next week, as I sat watching, our pediatrician took Conrad in his large, weathered hands. Our pediatrician is an elderly gentleman who actually was my husband's pediatrician. So I just love him because he pretty much knows everything. You know, he's seen everything, and so I felt really confident with him. I could see the concern in his eyes. I blurted out before he could even say anything. Like, he's not retarded, right? He looked at me tenderly and said, well, he is retarded in that he has not reached some of the milestones other children his age have met already. I was floored, but not entirely shocked. I didn't ask many questions as I didn't know what to ask. I didn't know how to process the fact that he had just given weight to my concern. He continued with his test, gently testing his reflexes, monitoring his eye movements, and trying to get him to stand on his feet. He didn't say what he thought it could be. I am sure he didn't want to worry me with an educated speculation. He told me that he wanted Conrad to see a pediatric neurologist, as his delays could be something cognitive. I left his office with the number for a pediatric neurologist, feeling, if anything, numb. So I went home, and we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment at the time, and my parents were visiting from Canada. And I walked in, and I just felt numb. Like, what are you supposed to feel? What are you supposed to think? What are you supposed to do? My mom was holding Conrad at the time, and I told her, I said, Mom, I think that something's wrong with Conrad. And she said, oh, no, this poor sweet little boy, because it's the worst thing ever, right? When something's wrong with someone that you love. And so we cried a little bit, and laughed a little bit, and joked, and said, oh, maybe it's just going to be fine. Maybe it's not going to be bad. And so a few months went by, and we got a pediatric neurologist appointment. And then he said, well, I don't really know. You need MRI. And so he did an MRI, and when I went to get the results back, and the doctor had gone out of town. And so I called their office and said, you know, because I'm waiting on pins and needles, waiting for this result. And she said, well, he's gone out of town, but I can give you the results. I'm like, okay, all right. So she gave me the results, which I thought was kind of odd. But so she said, well, they're normal. I was like, normal? But I knew something was wrong. I just knew it. And so went back to our pediatrician, and he said, you need to go up to Dornbecker, and you need to go see the Children's Rehab Developmental Rehabilitation program up at Dornbecker. So I made an appointment and went up there with Matt, and it's just this horribly exhausting appointment. It's 4 hours long, and we got there, and my mother-in-law, who's here tonight, was watching Ben at home, and so we went up there, and there's a visual test, an occupational test, a hearing test. What's the other test, Matt? Vision test, physical therapy test, occupational therapy. Did I say that? Anyway, it's this huge test, and all the people who are testing your son, you're going from different rooms, so you're not just staying in one room. So you're moving along, and you want your child to do good. You know, you want them to do really well, and I could see that what Conrad could do wasn't what he should be doing at his age, and that was really disheartening and really hard to watch, because, you know, I loved him so much, and he was doing things, but not anywhere close to what his benchmark should be. So that was really hard. So after that 4-hour appointment, they said, okay, you guys should go get some lunch. Like I could eat, but we went and sat down for 45 minutes, and then we went back in this big room, and we sat down, and they said, we've deliberated, and we think that your son has something called Angelman syndrome, which we'd never ever heard of. Like, how many of you have heard of it? Nobody's heard of it. Matt. After that day. So anyway, Angelman syndrome is a neurological disorder, and it causes severe developmental delay, cognitive delay. It causes motor problems. Our son didn't learn how to walk till he was nearly 4. He doesn't speak at all. A lot of the kids, about, I think it's 90-some% that suffer from epilepsy and are on very intensive doses of drugs to help them with that. And but the positive side, I wrote this down because I was like, man, we have to try something positive, because it is positive. But the good news is people with Angelman syndrome, also we call it AS, have a happy demeanor 99% of the time. They're very social. They often go up to strangers and offer hugs, or pull out your sunglasses or your glasses so that they can really see you, or try to take your food, because you should be sharing with them, especially chocolate or any kind of treat. And they're very, very lovable. Even if they're 15 or our son's 11, he just thinks, I totally need to be sitting on your lap right now. Like, who cares if it's not cool? Like, that's just what I'm doing. So it's very, you know, there's the negatives, obviously, of looking after a child with a special, like a very intense special needs. And then there's the positive sides of, I know that when he's 25, he's still going to really want to sit on my lap, and that is exciting. Unlike maybe my other boys that might not want to do that. Anyway, so I wanted to, how much time do I have? I'm good. Okay. So I wanted to read you so after we got the diagnosis, you have to have, it's a blood test, and they check your DNA, and it's a chromosomal deletion, so it affects your 15th chromosome. And so how much you're affected depends on how much of a deletion you have. So we went back 2 weeks later. They had called us and they said, well, it's positive for Angelman syndrome. And so come on back and we'll talk about it. So this is what happened. While waiting in the small cream-colored room, sitting on painfully hard chairs, looking at meaningless shapes in strange colors stenciled around the perimeter of the room, I realized that I already knew the answers to most of the questions I had scribbled down the night before. Only one unwritten question now mattered to me the most. Would Conrad know that we loved him? I don't know why I felt a professional could answer this. After such a negative diagnosis, perhaps I just felt I needed to hear an authoritative yes. I knew in my heart that Conrad would never go to college or get married and have children of his own, but surely he could know that he was loved. It was as if by knowing this, all of the pain and worry would be manageable. 4 people entered the room, an elderly female doctor who was the genetics team leader, 2 of her team members, and a genetics resident. With little introduction, the lead geneticist pointed to the spot on Conrad's DNA chart, indicating a partially deleted 15th chromosome. Our son indisputably had Angelman syndrome. I have no idea what happened next or exactly when I asked if my son would know that we love him. The geneticist paused, looked expressionless at Matt and me, and gave a safe and presumptive medical answer. No. Even today, I cannot find the words to describe how I felt at that moment. I could barely breathe. I was sweating and choking on the lump in my throat. I knew the doctor was continuing to talk, but I was drowning in deafening silence. Somehow I had gotten myself to the sink where I was trying to retrieve a paper towel to wipe my face and blow my nose. I remember asking for a minute to catch my breath as this unimpassioned woman droned on about DNA and chromosomes. Finally, after tremendous effort, I was able to collect myself. I didn't dare look at Matt, who was clearly struggling to retain his composure for both of us. We were both offended by the clinical way the geneticist spoke of our son, as though he were not a real child. That was almost more upsetting to me than being told he wouldn't really know we loved him. At that moment, I knew she was wrong. Conrad did know that we loved him, because he certainly loved us. He couldn't say it, and he still hasn't said it, but he shows us every day that he loves us, and we show him every day that we love him. So after that horrificness, I did what every parent does. They get on the internet, or I went to the library and I started looking for books on Angelman syndrome. None. There are none. There aren't even any. I mean, now it's been several years. He's 11 now. There are several blogs. There's tons of information. There's lots of supports out there for parents or siblings that are affected by this awful disorder. And I was talking to my mother-in-law one day about how there were just no books, and it was really frustrating to me because I love information and I wanted to know that I could do this, that I could be his parent, that it would be okay, and to connect with other parents who were also doing it. And so she said, "You're supposed to write it?" And I was like, that's really funny because I don't write books. I read books, love reading books, but I don't write books. And so then I went home and I thought about it, and I talked to my mom, and she said, "You're right, I think you're supposed to write it." And I thought, well, it can't just be from me because I didn't have enough experience. So what I did is I'm Canadian, but I've lived in the States for my whole married life. I contacted the Canadian Angelman Syndrome Society, and I contacted the Angelman Syndrome Foundation in the States. And I contacted them and I said, hey, I have this idea, and you guys send out like these quarterly newsletters. What do you think if I put a letter in there asking for people to participate in my book? And they said, that'd be awesome, that'd be so great. And so this book is not just written by me, it's written by tons and tons of families. Mothers, fathers, there's some siblings in here. It's just, when I started getting all these submissions in, I just wept and cried and laughed and felt buoyed up, and I just felt I wasn't alone, that I could do it, and there were others that were doing it too. Do I have time to read one more thing? Am I done? I want to read this one thing from a dear friend of mine who, her son was the second Angelman boy that I ever met. And her husband actually wrote this. And it's really funny. This will give you a point, sort of a glimpse into what Angelman kids think. It's just really funny. Okay. It's called Life from Joseph's Point of View. Mom's van is cool. In Mom's van, I get to go places. If my mom says, let's go for a ride, I'm ready. I sit down, and a lot of Angelman things, they do it really quick, so I'm going to read it quick. Well, part of it, anyway. I'm ready. I sit down by the front door to get my jacket and shoes on, and then jump up and down until I'm in van. Then I laugh a happy laugh. Mom's van is cool. The school bus comes too early. I don't want to get up. I do not want to eat. But I will eat my banana. I do not want to get on the bus. Hey, there's the neat bus driver lady. She might need a hug today. There are my friends. We're riding to school. Hey, there are my wonderful teachers. School is fun. Elmo is cool. Binkies are cool. I don't care what you say, Binkies are cool. I will stand up, put my arms back, move back and forth, and say, "Rah!" if you take my Binky. But plastic is the coolest. Ziploc sandwich bags are the coolest things ever. If you do not give me that plastic bag, I will grab it. If you still do not give me that bag, you are really going to hear me say, "Rah!" Baths are fun. I like running water. I will turn the faucet back on if you turn it off. I like to lie down in the bath. No, you better not turn off that water. I will splash. I splashed. That was funny. Oh, now they are making me get out of the bath. Still, that was pretty fun. Man, what a good laugh. Oh well, I'm dressed now. I wonder if Elmo's on. Nope. Lauren is watching Hannah Montana, but Nolan is doing homework. I can mess with Nolan. Nolan is not letting me get his homework. Oh, well, big sigh. I will go and cuddle with Lauren and watch Hannah Montana. Hey, what is in that cabinet? I bet I can break that childproof lock. I think that is where the pans are. Hey, that would be fun. Oh no, I'm in timeout. So that was pretty funny, even if I did not get in there. What a good laugh. Hey, I can see the TV from here, and it's on my show. So, living with an angel is fun and difficult and amazing. I have 3 other boys, and I know for a fact, oh, I don't want to do this. I know for a fact that my boys would not be the boys that they are now without their son, without their brother, who teaches them patience and love and acceptance and endurance. And I don't like the word tolerance, but tolerance, acceptance, you know, they are just wonderful, wonderful children. And I'm really so grateful for this opportunity. Thank you for letting me be here.